Welcome to this deep dive. We are jumping right into the complexities of the Asia-Pacific region, which this past week faced, well, quite a profound convergence.
Indeed, we saw the brute force of nature colliding head-on with escalating geopolitical friction.
Our mission today is straightforward. We want to unpack these concurrent challenges.
That's right, severe meteorological events running parallel to some pretty significant strategic tensions. We'll present the facts, the diverse viewpoints from our source material.
The goal is to give you the clarity needed to understand the situation.
Without, generating undue alarm, just the picture as we see it.
And before we get into those details, this deep dive is powered by the insights of ProWave AI, providing predictive analytics for global markets.
And we want to state clearly that this intensive analysis, it draws on real-time data, multi-source verification across traditional outlets, social intelligence. It's all generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
Okay, let's unpack this unusual week then. You look at the news coming out of the South China Sea, and you see this almost unbelievable balancing act.
It really is striking. On one hand, coastal authorities are managing the immediate, very physical threat of multiple super typhoons.
And on the other, the world's most crucial geopolitical maneuvering is simultaneously accelerating.
Right, in the exact same maritime space.
So what stands out here is the sheer relentlessness of the meteorological activity, isn't it?
It really does. The region saw Super Typhoon Kujira advance toward Guangdong. Now, this storm carried maximum sustained winds of 62 meters per second.
Which is just incredibly powerful.
Oh, absolutely. For listeners, that's wind speed strong enough to lift cars, cause catastrophic damage. It's Category 5 equivalent.
And before Kujira could even really clear the area.
Typhoon Hagupit was already making immediate landfalls in southern China, just one after the other.
And the sources confirmed that wasn't the end of it.
Not at all. Almost immediately, we saw the formation of typhoons Bolaven and Beloy.
So that requires continuous high-level vigilance across the Philippines, Taiwan, coastal China.
Exactly. It's a situation of continuous crisis management, which, makes the strategic developments happening concurrently all the more striking.
Let's start with the immediate, the visceral impact on the ground. When you have a rapid succession of storms like this, the disruption isn't just inconvenience.
No, it's a total shutdown in many cases. Across China, Guangdong, Guangxi, Hong Kong, Macau, the sources detailed widespread, immediate suspensions.
Things like high-speed rail.
High-speed rail, ferry services, flights, schools, all halting operations due to Kujira, Hagupit, and also Ragasa.
And in Shenzhen alone, the evacuation numbers were huge.
They were planning to evacuate an estimated 400,000 residents from the most vulnerable coastal areas. Just think about the logistics of that.
Incredible. And what was happening elsewhere in the region? The Philippines.
In the Philippines, the severe rainfall and destructive winds led to over 10,000 recorded evacuations, based on the reports we saw.
In Taiwan, they were already dealing with issues, weren't they?
They were. Taiwan was actually already struggling with recovery efforts. They were still dealing with severe residual effects from the earlier Typhoon Hagos.
So focusing on stabilizing areas hit by landslides, flooding.
Exactly. Particularly around Hualien, their disaster response capacity was, frankly, already stretched thin even before these next systems formed.
So while these communities were dealing with immediate physical threats from the weather, this high-stakes chess game of geopolitics was playing out just offshore. And here's where it gets really interesting. The intersection of weather and naval capability.
That's right. The meteorological activity didn't pause the strategic maneuvers for a minute. China's naval projection capability took a massive technological leap this week.
With the CNS Fujian, their third carrier.
Their third and newest aircraft carrier, yes. It conducted successful launch and landing tests right there in the South China Sea.
Now, we've seen these reports, but for our listeners who aren't naval engineers, maybe unpack why this test was such a game changer. It's more than just a successful launch, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It is the combination of successful tests that's key here. The CNS Fujian uses an electromagnetic catapult system, EMALS.
Which is the cutting edge.
It's the gold standard, yes.
Yeah.
Far superior to older, less powerful steam catapults. EMALS allows carriers to launch heavier, more sophisticated aircraft much faster.
But the real significance lies in the types of aircraft tested.
Precisely. They tested the J-15T fighter, the new J-35 stealth fighter, and crucially, the KJ-600 early warning plane.
What does testing those three together tell us? Why is that combination so important?
Well, it signals integrated command and control capability. You
Right.
can't effectively run a modern carrier battle group without the eyes in the sky, the early warning capacity of something like the KJ-600.
Huh?
Testing the Stealth J-35 alongside it means they are actively solving the very complex problem of launching, controlling, and coordinating a sophisticated offensive air wing directly from the carrier deck.
So it's a doctrinal shift as much as a technological one.
It is a profound shift in naval aviation doctrine and projection power for Beijing. Make no mistake.
And that technological leap, it inevitably accelerates a security shift across the region.
Right.
How are nations like the Philippines reacting to this heightened capability on their doorstep?
Well, the sources indicate the Philippines is dramatically shifting its national security focus. Historically, their military concentrated on internal insurgencies, domestic issues.
Right.
But they are now pivoting hard toward external maritime security threats.
And they're explicitly citing Chinese incursions as the reason.
Explicitly. This mandate necessitates a rapid and, frankly, costly modernization of their armed forces. They need different equipment, different training.
And internationally. Were the contested waters attracting attention from powers outside the immediate region during this period?
Absolutely. The sources confirmed that the British aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales completed its first transit through the contested South China Sea.
As part of Operation High Mast.
That's right. This is a very clear demonstration of freedom of navigation, a FNUP, by a major non-regional power.
Which naturally draws global attention.
And underscores the strategic competition inherent in those waters. It's a signal.
This complexity puts decision makers in an almost impossible bind, doesn't it? Managing a severe natural disaster while navigating a tense geopolitical environment. Let's look at how they responded.
Well, on the disaster front, we saw pretty coordinated emergency responses. China's Central Meteorological Observatory issued timely yellow typhoon warnings.
And the Guangdong provincial government activated high-level emergency plans.
Yes, focusing on those massive evacuations we mentioned earlier. And in the Philippines, President Marcos Jr. similarly ordered full disaster preparedness for Typhoon Ragasa. Standard procedure, but critical.
Now, regarding diplomacy and security, Philippine President Marcos Jr. seems to be walking a very complex tightrope. What did the sources report about his diplomatic moves this week?
It's fascinating. During a meeting with the Chinese ambassador, President Marcos Jr. reaffirmed his nation's commitment to the One China policy. That's standard diplomatic language.
But there was more.
Critically, yes. He also stated that the maritime disputes should not be allowed to define the entire bilateral relationship. He's trying to compartmentalize.
Trying to separate the security issues from, say, economic and political cooperation.
Precisely.
Is that balance sustainable, though? I mean, based on the sources, when his own military is rapidly having to modernize against the very actions of the other party.
That is the central question the sources implicitly raise. And simultaneously, while Marcos was navigating that domestic tightrope, you had the foreign ministers of the U.S., South Korea, and Japan meeting.
And what was the message there?
A unified concern over destabilizing activities around the Taiwan Strait, and vocal opposition to unlawful maritime claims in the South China Sea.
So the region is actively choosing sides, or at least reinforcing alignments, even as some leaders speak of dialogue.
It certainly appears that way. The actions speak quite loudly.
So what are the primary strategic directions or courses of action being proposed by the involved parties right now? What are the big moves?
We see two distinct, really opposing strategic directions emerging. The first is deterrence.
Okay.
The sources confirm active discussions and joint exercises. These involve the Philippines, Japan, Australia, and the United States.
Aimed at establishing what, exactly?
A collective defense pact. They are openly modeling this after NATO, intending it as a robust multinational counterweight to China's rapid military influence expansion.
The idea being to make any hostile action too costly to contemplate.
That's the core principle of deterrence, yes.
And what is the reaction from Beijing to this proposed collective security structure? Predictable.
Highly predictable and quite strong. China publicly and unequivocally condemns this proposed treaty. They frame it as a dangerous manifestation of Cold War mentality.
And their proposed alternative.
Beijing maintains that maritime issues must be resolved exclusively through dialogue, bilaterally, primarily.
While simultaneously insisting on its existing territorial claims.
Exactly. And this maintenance of claims is often achieved not through direct military conflict, but through what the sources consistently refer to as gray zone tactics.
Can you clarify for our listeners, what exactly constitutes a gray zone tactic in this context? It's a term we hear a lot.
Certainly. These are coercive actions that deliberately stop just short of traditional armed conflict. They're designed to wear down or intimidate rival nations, change the facts on the ground, but without triggering a treaty obligation or full-scale war.
Examples being?
Using powerful water cannons against Philippine vessels, which we saw reports of, the steady encroachment through massive fishing fleets, sometimes maritime militia, or large-scale, sustained island-building projects, turning reefs into military outposts.
The aim is to shift the status quo incrementally.
Precisely. Keep rivals perpetually off balance, reacting rather than acting.
And how does this strategy tie into the broader Taiwan narrative that also seemed to flare up this week? Are they linked?
Oh, they are inextricably linked in Beijing's view, and increasingly in Washington's, too. The South China Sea friction is part of the same strategic puzzle as the tension around Taiwan.
And the specific point of contention this week?
The U.S. narrative, or perhaps re-articulation that the Taiwan status is undetermined. This is viewed by China as a profound and dangerous revision of the long-standing consensus built around the One China principle.
Beijing sees any softening of that principle as
An intentional escalation.
yes.
It compounds the existing maritime tensions and, from their perspective, pushes all parties toward a less stable future.
So to build this complex picture, we're pulling information from a really diverse pool of sources.
We are. Traditional news outlets like the Securities Times in China, the Philippine Star, the Hong Kong China News Agency.
Coupled with real-time data gathered from social platforms like X, formerly Twitter.
Right. And if we look at the emotional temperature of the region, analyzing that public sentiment from social media provides critical context that traditional news sometimes misses.
What did that synthesis show?
Our synthesis of discussions on X shows the general tone regarding China's assertive maritime and defense actions is, well, predominantly negative, quite strongly so.
Can you give us some maybe qualitative examples? What kind of language are people using?
Absolutely. The hashtag Taiwan, for instance, showed overwhelmingly negative sentiment. We're talking 80 to 90% of relevant posts.
And the language used?
It frequently condemns the People's Liberation Army incursions as outright threats to regional stability. The feeling expressed is less about technical disagreements over lines on a map and more about, existential security concerns.
And what about the South China Sea discussions? Similar trends?
Very similar. Discussions around hashtag Philippines and hashtag South China Sea are also highly polarized and highly negative. We saw sentiment registering between 75 and 85% negative.
And was that fueled by specific incidents?
It appears so, yes. Spikes were often fueled directly by documented incidents like the widely circulated reports and, crucially, video footage of the use of water cannons against Philippine vessels.
So the viewpoints expressing negative sentiment often frame China's actions using strong terms.
Yes. Terms like assertive expansionism or bullying appear very frequently in those negative posts.
And conversely, the positive sentiment, where does that come from?
Well, the positive sentiment, which is definitely the minority view in the global conversation on X, is largely confined to pro-China or state-aligned narratives.
What do they focus on?
Typically focusing on praising economic investments, infrastructural aid, or framing China's actions as defensive or legitimate assertions of sovereignty.
So you have this global conversation really split between those alarms by aggressive military and paramilitary maneuvering and those focused on or promoting the economic benefits being offered.
That's a good summary of the polarization we're seeing online.
Okay. As we move forward then, what are the concrete points for our listeners to watch in the coming weeks? Let's start with the weather.
Right. We need to maintain vigilance on the meteorological front first. It's not over yet.
Which storm systems specifically should we monitor?
Continue monitoring Typhoon Baloy and Balaivan. Baloy in particular is expected to enter the South China Sea around September 27th.
And its projected path.
It looks likely to approach Hainan Island. That means coastal areas there and potentially nearby regions will face a continued high risk of heavy rainfall and high winds. So more disruption is possible.
And shifting to the geopolitical horizon, where should the listener focus their attention?
Diplomatically and militarily, keep a very close eye on the negotiations among the U.S., Japan, Australia, and the Philippines.
Regarding that proposed Asia-Pacific Mutual Defense Treaty.
Exactly. While formal ratification is probably some way off anticipated throughout 2025 and 2026, the rhetoric, the joint exercises, the signaling leading up to it will likely increase in intensity.
And Taiwan.
Continue to monitor the Taiwan Strait for any potential further articulation or clarification of the Taiwan status undetermined policy by the U.S. And also expect continued naval testing by the PLA as the CNS Fujin advances its operational readiness towards full deployment. That carrier is a major factor now.
Right. So this deep dive into a week defined by simultaneous crises, both natural and geopolitical, is made possible by this unique synthesis process Stylo News uses.
That's right. We combine multiple traditional news sources, like those we cited from the Philippines, China, international reports, along with sophisticated social media intelligence analysis from X.
The aim is to create a rapid, multi-source brief designed for clear, unbiased insight.
Trying to connect the dots across different types of information streams.
You can find more of this critical, AI-powered news on demand by subscribing to Stylo News. That's at www.stylonews.com.
We really appreciate you joining us for this crucial analysis. It's a complex picture looking at how severe weather and strategic competition are reshaping the Asia-Pacific region, really simultaneously.
And now shifting our tone just slightly, thank you for tuning into this deep dive. We hope it provided some valuable context.
Yes, thank you for listening.
If you enjoyed getting the full context on these complex issues, we really encourage you to follow Stylo News Reports and our social media channels. It's the best way to stay informed on these critical and, frankly, ever-evolving global narratives.
Until next time, stay safe.
And stay informed.